I'm Denise and I'm the AmeriCorps Naturalist intern here at the Dorothy Pico Nature Center. Today we're going to be doing a science outdoors video about erosion and glaciers. We are going to be doing a little experiment, so please have some sort of supervision nearby, and let's go ahead and get started. The first material you're going to need is a plastic or glass bowl. What you're going to do first is you're going to fill the bowl with water, then you're going to put it in the freezer, and once it's frozen completely through, you'll take that out of the freezer. So the materials you'll need for today's experiment are salt, either rock salt or table salt will work just fine, colors, either food coloring or watercolors, and a cookie sheet that has a lip or an edge so that the melted water doesn't spill out onto the counter. And then of course you'll need your ice that you have in your freezer. So first I'm going to explain to you the definition of erosion. Erosion is the movement of pieces that are removed by weathering. Weathering is the breaking down of land into smaller pieces. Glaciers are actually a slow-moving mass of ice that has been compacted for years and years and years. And we actually had glaciers moving through Iowa nearly 30,000 years ago. There still are glaciers today. They aren't nearly as large as they were back then. So today we're going to be talking about erosion. And so what does this ice have to do with erosion? Well, our ice is going to show us how the land, how Earth is sort of changed with different weathering and erosion. So our salt will act as our land eroder, and then we will use our colors to kind of show the path that different erosion can make. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to take some salt. I'm just going to sprinkle it along my ice here. It should work fairly quickly. So what the ice is doing is it's actually decreasing the freezing point of the ice itself. So it's actually going to make it melt a lot faster. So it'll start making sort of different canals, different streams along where we place our ice. Alright, I'm just going to branch out a bit. Alrighty, you can use as much salt as you would like, or as much as your parents let you. Make sure you are doing this under adult supervision, because ice and salt can actually burn you. So you're going to want to be very careful. So the longer the salt sits there, the faster you'll start to see where it's making its canals and where the ice is starting to melt. And when you see it up close, it actually melts very quickly once you put the ice down. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more salt on my bigger chunk of ice over here. Okay, so we're going to give that a second to go ahead and start melting the ice. So what we're going to start seeing here is going to be some canals that are going to be made in the ice. We're going to go ahead and follow those with some color so that we can see how deep the salt is going into the ice, to show that with erosion the land will start to split a bit. Erosion can actually cause valleys to be formed. I do have a few images of some valley type streams that were eroded, probably by a lot of rain. You'll go ahead and see those there in the video. So here I'm just putting the watercolor, or the food coloring, sorry. I'm not putting a whole lot, just about one drop every time I move. That should be good. Alright, and as you can see, I stayed right along the middle there with the food coloring, but the drops actually very quickly spread out to the sides, That's actually pretty neat. Here, let me put some on this side. Since it's got a wider base, it didn't reach quite as quickly. Oh, that's super cool. Okay. And then we're gonna go ahead and use a different color for the bigger ice block here. We'll use some. And maybe we'll mix in some more colors too. Let's see. What do we have here? We've got some purple. Yeah, that is really cool. Okay. All right. So, one really cool thing about following the watercolor is actually it really well represents how streams are often made. So a lot of times those little creeks or streams or small rivers that you have sort of outside of town often lead into much bigger rivers. For example, here in Woodbury we have the Missouri River, but we also have lots of little rivers that are surrounding the area, like the Little Sioux River, the Floyd River, and so those would be good examples of, you know, rivers that are out here along the edges, and they sort of feed into this one big river, and eventually, you know, all the rivers connect and they actually lead all the way to the ocean. And how that happens is a lot of times rivers can be, some rivers can be man-made, but most of our rivers are actually the result of glaciers, and maybe even some sort of, you know, erosion and weathering following into that too. But the cool thing about glaciers is that they actually passed through our area, and which is actually why we have the less hills here. A lot of glacier deposits actually created a lot of the valleys and hills that we have here in our county and along the western side of Iowa. So actually, if you've heard about it or not, the Grand Canyon is actually the result of years and years of moving water, which would be considered erosion. It's actually this water that's carving away for millions and millions of years at the land around it. So the Grand Canyon is actually, we think that it took about 5 million years to form, which is pretty crazy. That's a really long time. And it actually it can get up to 1 mile deep and 20 miles wide, the Grand Canyon, which is pretty wild if you think about how, you know, those are huge rocks, you know, huge pieces of land, and what caused that was just water, just fast moving water eating away at the land around it. So, as you can see now, the salt is actually starting to bleed into the ice. So now it's not just running off on the edges, it's actually going in deeper. Here it's actually created a hole. I can see the bottom of the tray there. So that kind of just shows how, you know, like over time, the longer and that the water feeds through the land and eats away at the surrounding dirt and things, it just keeps building deeper and deeper and deeper into the ground, making those valleys, those rivers and streams. And we've actually got some cool color action going on under this sphere over here. It's pretty neat, pretty neat. So there are actually a lot of factors that go into erosion and weathering. It's not just water. Wind can actually wear down rocks. It can pull away the topsoil of our fertile farmland, which is actually not a good thing. Water is the primary cause of weathering and erosion, just because, you know, like especially fast moving water really eats away at the surrounding dirt and land. So there are actually natural ways that were, you know, sort of put in place to prevent that over time erosion and weathering, and those are actually put in place a lot of times by beavers. Beavers are actually sort of a natural remedy by, well, first of all, their dams provide lots and lots of safe habitats for lots of different animals that might live in those rivers or bodies of water, but also trees and shrubs that have a really good root system are actually, you know, they're meant to be alongside of rivers, not only to provide shade in those rivers for, you know, whatever animals might be living there, but they also, their root systems hold together the land so that, you know, even as the water is passing through, it's not able to eat away at the land so quickly, and it sort of holds that ground in place. Also, fallen logs that have fallen over into the bodies of water are actually very helpful because it sort of slows down the water flow. As we know, too fast of moving water is what really causes a lot of damage and eats away at the land really, really quickly. So when those logs fall over in these bodies of water, they're sort of slowing that water flow, slowing the process of erosion around it, and so it's actually really, really beneficial. When you guys are doing this at home, make sure you're keeping an eye on those colors. It's making a lot of really, really cool iridescent looking colors right now that they're mixing and melting into each other. It's really, really neat. And the ice itself is actually a pretty good representation of how, you know, when glaciers were passing through our area, once they, you know, got stuck and settled in one spot and they started melting, that's actually, it would create valleys, and the melting ice from the glacier is sort of what started that body of water. So as we see here, all this melting water, that's what would become that body of water that was created by the glacier moving through it. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and add some colors along the edge here so that you can see all these streams. Hopefully this color shows up well. All these streams that are being created along the edge of the sphere here. So you can kind of sort of see where that color is following into those canals that were created by the salt eating away at the ice. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys a close-up of our ice here. Now you can really, really see those canals, those streams that were created by the ice, and where that food coloring sort of just followed along there. Here's our little Christmas tree. There you can see the hole where the ice just completely broke through with the salt. Over here it's not as clear to see where all the little streams are. Here you can see all the colors that are starting to bleed in together. But I think definitely this sphere really shows those canals and those streams that are created by the ice, or by the salt on the ice. It's pretty neat. Thank you everyone for joining me on my Science Outdoors video today. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please be sure to check out our Instagram and Facebook video. Thanks again everyone for joining me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.